The war chamber of the Dreadclaw hummed with predatory energy. Blue holograms of Earth's continents floated above the obsidian table, flickering under the gaze of the Vorak Dominion's most ruthless commanders. High Commander Krazak leaned forward, his armored claws scraping against the table as he zoomed in on a cluster of human cities. "Pathetic," he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "No orbital shields, no plasma batteries, just steel and concrete." A chorus of guttural laughter echoed through the chamber. Sub-Commander Vexus, her scales polished to a venomous sheen, tapped a talon against the hologram. "Their strongest warships still use chemical propulsion. We outrange them by light seconds." She flicked her tongue in amusement. "This isn't a conquest, it's a harvest." Krazak's tail lashed behind him as he straightened to his full height, the spines along his back rippling with anticipation. "The Federation's soft-bellied diplomats warned us not to provoke them, said humanity was resilient," he snorted, a puff of acrid vapor escaping his nostrils. "Look at their history. Centuries spent clawing at each other over patches of dirt. They only reached their moon because they wanted to fling bombs at one another harder. War, Master Droth," his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the tactical data, growled low in his throat. "Their last global war was fought with fossil fuels. They only discovered FTL because the Vespidians pitied them enough to share the schematics." He bared his fangs. "This will be over in 3 rotations. Their cities will burn before they even understand what's happening." The hologram shifted, displaying Earth's meager defensive grid, a handful of aging orbital platforms, and a scattered fleet of blocky undergun cruisers. Krazak zoomed in on one labeled USN Defiance. "Their flagship," he sneered. "A glorified cargo hauler with railguns bolted on. My personal shuttle has more firepower." Vexus leaned in, her slit pupils dilating with hunger. "The other empires are watching. If we crush humanity quickly, the Galactic Federation will think twice about denying us the Cygnus trade routes." A murmur of agreement rippled through the commanders. Krazak raised a claw, and the chamber fell silent. "Then it's decided. The Dominion fleet will jump to Sol within the cycle." He turned to the hologram, where Earth's blue oceans shimmered innocently. "Burn their ships, glass their military hubs, leave their leaders alive long enough to beg for mercy." His lips peeled back in a grin. "Then show them none." Droth activated the fleet. "Wide comm. All battle groups prepare for jump. Primary target Earth's orbital defenses. Secondary, their shipyards over Mars." His eye gleamed. "Leave no dock standing." As the commanders dispersed to their ships, Krazak lingered, staring at the hologram. Something nagged at him, a whisper from the archives, half buried in classified reports. The Zepyrians had once called humans something dangerous, but the Zepyrians were dust now, their empire shattered into cosmic debris. He crushed the thought like a bug under his claw superstition. The humans were weak, and weakness deserved extinction. Outside the Dreadclaw's viewports, 100 Vorak warships powered up their drives, their jagged silhouettes blotting out the stars. Krazak flexed his claws. By this time tomorrow, Earth's skies would burn, and the galaxy would learn the price of defying the Dominion. The archives of the Vorak Dominion hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of ancient data engines. Historian Zix adjusted his ocular implants, 4 eyes flickering as they processed the dim light of the restricted section. His scaled fingers brushed dust from a millennia old console. The machine coughed to life, projecting fractured holograms of battles long forgotten. "You waste time with dead empires, scholar." High Commander Krazak's voice boomed through the chamber as his armored form filled the doorway. His tail scraped against the stone floor, leaving fresh gouges in the ancient metal. "The invasion fleet departs in 6 cycles. We need tactical assessments, not fairy tales." Zix didn't turn from the flickering images. A shattered dreadnought spun silently in the hologram, its alien markings barely recognizable. "You dismiss history at your peril. Commander, the Zepyrians made that same mistake." Krazak snorted, the sound like grinding rocks. The Zepyrians fell to infighting. Their empire collapsed before my grandfather's grandfather hatched. He stepped closer, his shadow swallowing the holographic wreckage. What could their failures teach us about crushing hairless apes? The historian tapped a sequence into the console. The projection shifted to show a star system, third planet burning blue and green. Earth, Zix whispered. The image zoomed in on a massive orbital structure, its design unlike anything in Vorak records. The Zepyrians built this, or rather, they tried to. Krazak's claws flexed. More ruins. What of it? Not ruins. Zix's voice dropped. A grave. The hologram changed again, showing the station's final moments. Blinding light, then nothing. Their last transmission called humans, the architects of ruin. Then silence. The entire Faith battle fleet vanished near Sol. The commander laughed, the sound echoing through the archives. Superstition. Look at human history. They nearly wiped themselves out with fission weapons. Their first FTL ship flew barely a century ago. He gestured at the projection of Earth. No plasma shields, no orbital cannons, just primitive chemical rockets and blind luck. Zix brought up another record, a damaged log from a Zepyrian scout. The alien voice crackled through distorted speakers. Do not engage the humans. They take our weapons and make them worse. The recording cut to static. Krazak backhanded the console, sending the hologram sputtering. Enough. The Dominion has crushed 100 species stronger than these mammals. Their cities will burn before the next lunar cycle. The historian finally turned, his 4 eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. You think the Zepyrians feared human weapons? They feared their minds. That station was their greatest weapon, until humans turned it against them. He tapped the console, revealing one last image, a human engineer standing before a reactivated Zepyrian core, the alien technology pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. They don't just adapt, they improve. The commander's crest flared red with anger. Then we'll burn their worlds before they get the chance. He turned to leave, his armored boots shaking dust from the ancient floor. The vote is already cast. Earth falls within the week. As Krazak's footsteps faded, Zix stared at the frozen image of the human engineer. The console's last warning flashed in old Zepyrian script, a phrase the Dominion's translators rendered as, "Beware the ones who turn death into tools." Outside the archives, the war drums began to beat. The dim glow of tactical screens cast long shadows across Lunar Defense Command. Major Lisa Hayes rubbed her tired eyes as another alert chimed on her console. The Vorak fleet had crossed the asteroid belt. 36 capital ships confirmed, she reported, her voice steady, despite the numbers. They'll be in firing range within 12 hours. Around the circular war room, officers exchanged grim looks. The holographic display showed Earth, blue and vulnerable, surrounded by a swarm of red hostile markers. Admiral Ryan Blake stood at the center, his cybernetic eye whirring as it zoomed in on the lead Vorak dreadnought. Just like we thought, Blake said, his voice like gravel. They're coming straight for the throat. Captain Wu from Orbital Defense scowled. Our railgun satellites won't scratch their shields, and the US and fleet is outnumbered 3-1. A junior lieutenant, fresh from the academy, swallowed hard. Sir, do we have any reinforcements? Blake's mouth twitched. Not a smile. Something darker. Oh, we've got reinforcements, Lieutenant. Just not the kind they're expecting. He tapped a command into his console. The main display shifted, zooming out past Mars. A single blinking icon appeared near Phobos classified. No details. Lisa frowned. Sir, that is, Project Lazarus, Blake finished. Active as of 20 minutes ago. The room went still. Even the constant hum of machinery seemed to quiet. Captain Wu recovered first. You're telling me Command actually approved it? Blake's single organic eye gleamed. They didn't just approve it, they tracked the damn thing the moment the Vorak entered the system. He turned to Lisa. Major, patch me through to Ares Foundry. Encrypted channel. Lisa's fingers flew across her console. A moment later, a grainy video feed flickered to life. A cavernous underground hangar, lit by flickering red emergency lights. A figure in an engineer's jumpsuit stepped into view, face obscured by a rebreather mask. "Admiral," the engineer said, voice distorted. "We're green across the board, just waiting on your signal." Blake nodded. "How many are operational?" "All 12. And the Titan's weapons systems are at 110% spec." A murmur ran through the war room. The Titan Lisa had heard whispers. A ghost story passed between officers. A ship that shouldn't exist. Blake leaned forward. "You're sure about the modifications?" The engineer's masked face tilted. "Sir, with all respect, the Zephyrian tech was impressive. What we did to it, that is terrifying." For the first time since the Vorak fleet had been detected, Blake showed teeth. "Good," he straightened. "Initiate startup sequence, but keep them powered down until my mark. Let the Vorak think they're walking into an empty house." The feed cut out. The officers stared at their admiral. Captain Wu exhaled sharply. "You're baiting them." "Damn right I am," Blake said. He turned to the main display, where the red swarm crept closer to Earth. "They think we're weak. Let's keep them thinking that, right up until the moment we rip their throats out." Lisa watched the Admiral's profile, the scars, the cybernetic implant, the unshakable calm. For the first time in days, she felt something other than dread. Blake's voice cut through the silence. "All stations, Condition 1 alert, deploy the decoy fleet. Make it look convincing." As alarms blared through the command center, Lisa allowed herself one last look at the blinking icon near Phobos. Whatever Project Lazarus was, it was humanity's ace in the hole, and the Vorak had no idea what was coming for them. The first Vorak plasma lances tore through Earth's orbital defense grid, like knives through paper. The USN Defiance shuddered as its portside armor vaporized under the emerald fire. Captain Alvarez gripped his command chair as alarms wailed through the bridge. Evasive pattern delta. All batteries return fire. Across the black, 24 human cruisers scrambled to form defensive lines. Their railgun salvos streaked toward the advancing Vorak armada, only to fizzle against shimmering energy shields. On the Defiance's tactical display, red icons outnumbered blue 5-1. "Admiral Blake!" Alvarez shouted into the comm. "Their shields are shrugging off our heaviest rounds." Static crackled before the grizzled commander's face appeared, his cybernetic eye pulsing red with damage reports. "Hold the line, Captain. Reinforcements en route from Luna." A Vorak voice cut across all channels, deep and dripping with amusement. Pathetic. High Commander Krazak's scaled visage filled every screen aboard human ships. "Your primitive kinetics amuse us. Watch as we burn your orbitals." The Dreadclaw unleashed its main battery. A beam of pure plasma wider than a city block lanced toward the USN Atlantica. The human battleship's point. Defense lasers flared. Too slow, too weak. The beam punched clean through its midsection, detonating fusion reactors in a silent fireball that lit up the night side of Earth below. Lieutenant Chen on the Defiance choked back a scream as the Atlantica's transponder winked out. That was Admiral Petrov's ship. Alvarez's knuckles turned white. "All ships, concentrate fire on that flagship." Human railguns thundered in unison. 1,000 tungsten rods accelerated to relativistic speeds, only to splash harmlessly against the Dreadclaw's shields. Krazak's laughter rumbled through the comms. Like insects stinging a warship. "Shall we demonstrate real firepower?" Across the Vorak formation, ventral bays slid open. Hundreds of drop pods streaked toward Earth's atmosphere, glowing like meteors. Alvarez's stomach dropped. "They're launching ground forces. Beijing, New York, Moscow. All major cities are targets." Blake's voice came through gritted teeth. "Activate planetary defense grid. Full interception protocol." But the Vorak had planned for this. Swarms of needle, thin fighters intercepted Earth's surface to orbit missiles, detonating them harmlessly high above the stratosphere. The first drop pods hit downtown Tokyo in a storm of kinetic impactors. Security feeds showed Vorak shock troops 8 foot, tall reptilian nightmares in powered armor, cutting through police barricades with wrist-mounted plasma casters. On the Defiance's bridge, Ensign Rivera suddenly stiffened. "Captain!" Long-range scanners detect more Vorak signatures translating from FTL at the system's edge. The tactical plot updated with fresh crimson icons. Dozens more capital ships. Krazak's face reappeared, his forked tongue flicking in amusement. "Your species had potential. Humans, pity. You never evolved past gunpowder." The Dreadclaw's weapons hummed to full charge, targeting the Defiance. "Any last words before we—" The transmission cut off as a new alert blared across human networks. Alvarez barely had time to register the incoming message from Lunar Command before space itself seemed to tear open behind the Vorak fleet. Something massive was coming. Something the Vorak hadn't accounted for. The last thing Alvarez heard before the shockwave hit was Blake's voice, calm and deadly. "Playtime's over." The alarms blared through Lunar Command as the Vorak fleet broke through the last orbital defenses. Major Lisa Hayes gripped the edge of the tactical table, watching red icons swarm over Earth's atmosphere. "Admiral, they're hitting Tokyo and New York with kinetic strikes. Civilian casualties." Admiral Blake didn't flinch. His cybernetic eye flickered as he tapped a hidden console. "Activate Project Lazarus." A junior officer spun in his chair. "Sir, the Mars array just went dark." "Not dark," Blake said. "Awake." Deep beneath the red sands of Mars, the Ares foundry shuddered. Ancient machinery, buried for millennia, hummed to life. The vaults, carved by hands not human, unsealed with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral, we've got activity in Sector Theta. The Zephyrian relics, they're moving." On the view screen, the surface of Phobos cracked apart. Dust and debris spiraled as something colossal pushed through the moon's crust. The US and Titan rose, its blackened hull studded with weapons no human had designed. Hybrid tech, Zephyrian alloy fused with human engineering. Hayes' breath caught. "You knew." Blake's smile was razor thin. "The Zephyrians left graveyards, Major. We turned them into armories." Aboard the Titan, Captain Vance gripped his command chair as systems flared online. Alien glyphs flickered beside human script on his displays. "All hands brace for combat jump. Guns free, shields at Faye." The Vorak fleet didn't see it coming. One moment, Earth's pitiful defenders were scattering. The next, space rippled as the Titan translated into their midst. Its main cannon, a relic modified with human targeting systems, lanced out. A Vorak battleship detonated, its plasma cores cooking off in a chain reaction. Krazak's roar of fury echoed across the comms. "What is that?" Vance's reply was ice. "Payback." Across the solar system, more vaults opened. Shipyards hidden in Mercury's twilight zone unfolded like steel flowers. Fighters, sleek, black, impossibly fast, spilled into the void. They moved in perfect sync, dancing through Vorak formations with brutal precision. Hayes watched the tactical feed, stunned. Those maneuvers, no pilot could survive those G-forces. Blake didn't look away from the screen. "They're not piloted." The truth hit her like a railgun round. You cracked Zephyrian AI cores." "Not cracked," Blake said. "Bargained with." Turns out, even ancient war machines respect a species that digs up gods and rebuilds them better. On the Dreadclaw, Krazak's claws tore into his command console. "Focus fire on that monstrosity." The Titan didn't flinch. Its shields flared violet as Vorak plasma washed harmlessly over them. Then it returned fire. A dozen kinetic rods, each the size of a skyscraper, slammed into the Vorak line. Ships crumpled like paper. Vance opened a fleet-wide channel. "Vorak Dominion, you came to our home. You burned our skies. Now learn why the Zepyrians carved warnings about us in dead stars." The Titan's engines flared. It lunged forward, ramming straight through a Vorak carrier. Debris spun away as its boarding bays opened. Powered armor, another hybrid abomination, spewed into the breach. Human marines, enhanced with Zepyrian exosystems, carved through Vorak warriors like wheat. Krazak staggered as alarms wailed. "Impossible." Scans showed no. His tactical officer screamed, "Commander, more signatures. Mars, Mercury, even the asteroid belt. They're everywhere." Blake's voice, cut across the chaos, broadcast on every human and Vorak channel. "You wanted an easy conquest. Instead, you woke the architects." The Titan's guns cycled again. This time, they aimed at the Dreadclaw. The bridge of the USN Titan hummed with restrained power, every console glowing red with combat readiness. Admiral Blake stood before the main view screen, his cybernetic eye flickering as it synced with the fleet-wide broadcast system. Across Earth's defense network, from lunar bunkers to Martian outposts, every human and Vorak screen would now show his face. He took a slow breath, the scars on his jaw tightening as he activated the channel. "Hi, Commander Krazak," Blake said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of centuries of human defiance. "You came to our system expecting weak prey. You thought we'd break under your guns." On the screen, the Vorak flagship Dreadclaw loomed amidst the burning wreckage of Earth's outer defenses. Blake's lips curled. "But you made one fatal mistake." Static crackled as the feed connected directly to the Vorak command ship. Krazak's scaled face appeared, his slit pupils narrowing in irritation. "Admiral Blake," he hissed, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Your bravado is as pathetic as your fleet. Look around you. Your ships burn, your orbitals fall. Surrender now, and I may spare a few of your cities." Blake didn't blink. "You're right about one thing, Krazak. We are primitive." He turned slightly, nodding to Major Hayes beside him. She tapped a command into her console. Across the solar system, dormant systems flared to life. Primitive enough to dig through the ruins of empires that thought like you did. Primitive enough to learn from their mistakes. The view screen split. On one side, Krazak's sneer faltered as new signatures blazed across his tactical display. On the other, the feed showed Phobos, splitting open. The moon's crust shuddered, massive armored plates retracting to reveal the Ares foundry beneath. From its depths, the Titan's sister ships rose, black-hulled leviathans, their hulls scarred with human modifications over ancient Zepyrian frames. Krazak's claws dug into his command throne. "What trickery is this?" "No trick," Blake said, "just human ingenuity." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "The Zepyrians called us architects of ruin. They tried to erase us from history. And you know what? They were right to be afraid." A new alert blared across the Vorak fleet. The Titan's main batteries, hybridized Zepyrian plasma cannons, fed by human reactor designs, powered up. Their targeting locks painted the Dreadclaw's bridge. Blake's smile was cold. "You came for an easy conquest. Now you'll learn why the galaxy forgot us, and why they'll remember you as the fools who woke the storm." Krazak snarled an order to retreat, but it was too late. The Titan's guns fired. The first shot sheared through the Dreadclaw's forward shields like paper. On Earth, in bunkers and burning cities, humans looked up as Blake's voice echoed through every speaker. "All ships, all stations. This is Admiral Ryan Blake. The Vorak came to break us. Let's show them what breaking really looks like." The human fleet moved as one, not fleeing, not surrendering, hunting. The USN Titan tore through the debris field like a blade through flesh, its hybrid engines burning blue, white against the black. Admiral Blake's voice crackled across every human channel, calm and lethal. "All ships, pattern Delta. Let's show these lizards how we really fight." Vorak fighters swarmed the Titan, plasma bolts scorching its blackened hull. Inside the bridge, Lieutenant Chen grinned as damage reports flashed across her screen. "Shields at Faye. They're hitting us with everything they've got, sir." Blake didn't blink. "Good. Means they're scared." On the view screen, the Dreadclaw loomed like a jagged mountain, its weapons batteries glowing red, hot from continuous fire. Krazak's snarling face appeared on comms, his scales flushed with rage. "You dare challenge the Vorak Dominion with stolen toys?" Blake leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it locked onto the enemy flagship. "Stolen? No. Upgraded." A single command pulsed through the fleet. The Titan's main cannon, a relic of the Zepyrian Empire, reforged with human targeting systems, unleashed a beam of pure annihilation. It punched through the Dreadclaw's shields like they were paper, carving a molten trench across its armored belly. Krazak staggered as alarms shrieked across his bridge. "Impossible. Our shields were outdated." Blake finished for him. "Just like your intel." Across the battlefield, human ships moved with terrifying precision. The U.S. in defiance, its hull still smoking from earlier hits, swung broadside and unleashed a volley of railgun slugs. Each round was tipped with gravity warheads, human-designed, Zepyrian-inspired. Vorak cruisers crumpled like crushed cans as artificial singularities bloomed inside their hulls. Marine Captain Russo led the boarding action, his powered armor locking onto the Dreadclaw's shattered hull. His squad moved through the smoke, filled corridors like ghosts, their pulse rifles cutting down Vorak warriors mid-charge. A hulking Vorak elite lunged at him, claws extended. Russo sidestepped, drove his vibroblade through its throat, and kept moving. "Remember, boys," he growled over squad comms. "Aim for the joints. Their armor's thick, but their biology's predictable." Back on the Titan, Blake watched as the tide turned. The Vorak fleet, once an unstoppable wave, now floundered, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. Krazak's voice roared over an open channel, desperation creeping into his tone. "All ships regroup, protect the Dreadclaw. Too late." The USN Atlantica, thought lost in the initial assault, emerged from behind Mars' shadow. Its hull was battered, its engines barely holding together, but its weapons were online. A full spread of torpedoes streaked toward the Vorak command ship, each one humming with the same hybrid tech that powered the Titan. Krazak's final transmission was cut short as the Dreadclaw's core detonated, the explosion lighting up the void like a second sun. Silence fell across the human fleet. Then, one by one, the surviving Vorak ships powered down their weapons. Their surrender codes blinked across tactical displays, but Blake's eyes were already on the star map. "This wasn't their main fleet," he murmured. Chen looked up from her console. "Sir." Blake's jaw tightened. This was just the tip of the spear. The real fight's coming. Outside, amidst the wreckage, something stirred. A single Vorak escape pod, its transponder silent, drifted toward the outer system. Inside, a wounded Krazak clutched his bleeding side, his remaining eye fixed on the retreating human ships. He tapped a hidden console, activating a deep-range transmitter. His message was short, encoded, and filled with something no Vorak had ever admitted before. The wreckage of the Dreadclaw spun silently against the black, its once proud hull now a broken carcass venting atmosphere in frozen plumes. Admiral Blake watched from the bridge of the USN Titan, his cybernetic eye zooming in on the retreating Vorak ships as they scrambled for the system's edge. Their formation was ragged, their engines flaring with the desperation of prey. "Let them go," Blake said, his voice rough from hours of battle. "We've made our point." Major Hayes turned from her console, her fingers still hovering over the tactical display. "They'll be back, sir, with reinforcements." Blake exhaled, the weight of the coming storm settling on his shoulders. "I know." Below them, Earth hung in the void, its blue marred by the scars of orbital bombardment. Cities still burned, but the planetary defense grids had held, barely. The Titan's comm crackled as reports flooded in. Mars Foundry reporting full production capacity. Lunar Command scrambling repair crews. The scattered remnants of the USN regrouping. On the main screen, a transmission flickered to life. Krazak's face appeared, his reptilian snout split by a fresh wound, one eye swollen shut. "This isn't over, human," he hissed. "The Dominion does not suffer defeat lightly." Blake leaned forward, his scarred face filling the Vorax screen in return. "No," he agreed, "but neither do we." The feed cut abruptly in the silence that followed. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Lieutenant Chen, his uniform singed from a near-miss plasma burst, cleared his throat. "Admiral, what was that?" "Those weapons, the Titan. We didn't build this, not in 50 years, let alone 5. Blake tapped a command into his console. The main display shifted, showing schematics of the hybrid warships, human frames wrapped around Zepyrian cores, their reactors humming with borrowed fury. "We didn't build it," he admitted. "We repurposed it. The Zepyrians left their toys lying around. We just improved the design." Hayes frowned. "And the rest of the galaxy, they'll see this, they'll know." Blake's smile was thin, dangerous. "Let them." 3 systems away, the Vorak Dominion's secondary fleet received the transmission. Admiral Vrix, her scales dull with age, watched the battle footage in silence. The Dreadclaw's destruction, the Titan's emergence, the way the human ships moved, not with the clumsy desperation of prey, but the calculated precision of predators. Her second, in command, a young warrior named Hesk, shifted uneasily. They were supposed to be weak. Vrix turned off the feed. "They were supposed to be forgotten," she corrected. "On the edge of known space, in a derelict station older than human civilization, a single monitor flickered to life. The battle of soul played out in grainy holograms. A shadowed figure reached out, tracing the image of the Titan with clawed fingers. "They remember," it whispered. The station's ancient systems hummed in response, long dormant protocols activating one by one. Back on the Titan, Blake stood at the observation deck, staring at the stars. Behind him, the shipyard crews were already at work, welding fresh armor onto the next generation of hybrids. The schematics for something bigger glowed on his tablet. A dreadnought to dwarf, even the Titan. Hayes joined him, handing over a steaming cup of coffee. "What now?" Blake took a sip, savoring the bitter heat. "Now," he said, "we get ready." Somewhere out there, the galaxy was waking up to a truth it had tried to erase, and humanity was just getting started.